this heated rhetoric can only go so far before, unfortunately, it has led to violence on both sides of the aisle. And so I think it's just something that Democrats and Republicans have to be very cognizant about. What can we all do to take the temperature down?
Yeah. Do you expect there to be calls from within the Trump campaign to do that?
Are you serious?
It happened again, another attempt on Donald Trump's life, which thankfully ended in failure. So this is completely unprecedented. One election cycle, one candidate, two attempts. Why does it keep happening? And we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, what's hilarious here is some people are already putting out some tweets and memes, etc. This one is not from Donald Trump. Apparently it is a fake. It is a mock-up, but Trump should totally tweet this out. 0-2, okay, from that real Donald Trump. They just can't seem to get him, thank goodness, right? Teflon Don is taking on a completely new meaning, as it were. But let's go ahead and jump into why in the world could people possibly be making all these attempts on Donald Trump's life?
A lot of people have tried to draw similarities between Mussolini and Hitler and the use of the terminology like vermin and the drive that those men had towards autocracy and dictatorship. The difference, though, I think makes Donald Trump even more dangerous, and that is he has no philosophy he believes in. He is not trying to expand the boundaries of the United States of America. He's not trying to overcome a neighboring country like Putin is in Ukraine. He is not going for some grandiose scheme of international dominance. All he wants is to look in the mirror and see a guy who's president.
Give me your response to what Donald Trump is doing.
It is outrageous. It's horrifying, but it's expected from a fascist authoritarian person who wants to create havoc in this country, who wants to take us to Nazi Germany. I can't even talk, Nazi Germany. We exported racism, fascism to Nazi Germany. We exported it to South Africa, Jonathan. We know how to do it. We're good at it. And let's not pretend that Donald Trump isn't exactly like Mussolini, exactly like Hitler. He is that guy, and we're not going to get what we want if we elect this fascist, authoritarian weasel.
Here's one of the things. Donald Trump loves to say things such as they're illegal, right? Every time he talks about an immigrant, he makes it seem as if they have done something nefarious. And it's not true. Just because they are immigrants does not mean that there's anything illegal about them. This can't be the guy that is supposed to protect us when it comes to people that are coming out against us. This is the same guy that could not say on that debate stage that he wanted Ukraine to win. He could not do that. This guy doesn't understand who our friends are, and he also doesn't understand who we are as a nation, which we are a country of immigrants, and the demonization of any group of people, whether it's black folk and saying, you know what, we need to go out and make sure that officers have immunity to just go ahead and kill them criminally, or whether we're talking about those that he says, oh, all of the Hispanics that are coming in, they're going to rape your children. Listen, the problem isn't the people coming in. The problem is this guy and his people here that are doing the bomb threats throughout our country. Domestic terrorism is a real thing, and he is the guy that stokes it.
For years, Donald Trump has been the worst person in the world. He's the next Hitler. In fact, he's worse than Hitler, worse than Mussolini, right? He's the fascist dictator who wants to ruin this country. He's the one who's stoking all types of domestic terrorism, right? That is what Donald Trump does. Now, when someone is portrayed like that, what of course would be the natural response, especially to some wacko individual who's been brainwashed by the left to have these extremist views? Because remember, what does the left actually do? They condone violence, right? They encourage it as long as it's in a cause that they deem to be worthy, right? And for evidence of that, just look back to the George Floyd riots, okay? Just look back to all of that stuff that was happening all over the country where cities were allowed to burn for weeks and months, right? It's complete insanity to normal people. However, this leftist mind virus that turns people into insane criminals is now turning people into attempted assassins. And over here, we can see that, yes, from this gunman's actual son. Right? The Daily Mail's reporting the son of alleged would-be assassin says his dad hates Trump like all reasonable people, but he's never owned a gun and wouldn't do anything bat crap crazy, which of course is complete garbage as more stuff comes out about this general. So I want to focus on this all reasonable people, right? It's reasonable to hate Trump. If you are a person of reason, if you have your functioning faculties, then you should obviously hate Donald Trump. But remember, if Donald Trump is the worst person in the history of the world who's going to cause all types of death and destruction, then what's the natural conclusion to someone who's a little off their rocker? All right, what is that going to be? And obviously, we have the result. Now, the crazy thing about this, of course, is how the media initially tried to spin this story, right? When I did an initial search over what was happening, these were the headlines. Trump is safe following gunshots in his vicinity, campaign says in statement. Trump safe after shots fired in his vicinity at golf course, suspect in custody. But as it was coming out and information was coming out very, very quickly, it was apparent that this was an assassination attempt. But these were the headlines coming out at the time. And if you actually click on these, it's quite hilarious because now we're getting the updated headlines like this. Trump safe after being targeted in second apparent assassination attempt. Okay, so they changed the headline to actually match what was really happening when they couldn't hide it anymore. But also, aside from those initial reports, people were trying to downplay it over on X. As we can see from here, the New York Post apparently made this statement about two people exchanging gunfire outside of a Trump International Golf Course, West Palm Beach. The shooters were targeting each other, and the gunfire was not targeting Trump, the sources said. Okay, so this was the story that many people went with. So here we have Michael Garcia. No, there was not another Trump assassination attempt. These people were not even firing at or close to his mansion. There were two gangbangers, and knowing Florida, this is not an exception to the rule, firing gunshots at each other. And of course, this was the narrative that kept seeping out from the left. As you can see right here from Unique Dehan 1, shots nearby his golf course. Trump is in no danger. Shots were fired at two individuals at each other in high crime area. And also down here from Helen Ambrose, calm down everyone. Two gun nuts fired each other outside of Trump's golf club. Trump doesn't appear to be a target. Shots fired at Trump's golf club where he played. A campaign says ex-president is safe. Yes, he was safe, but he was the target. And this was obviously an apparent assassination attempt. I was in a very unique position as the story was developing yesterday, right? I was actually on Twitter watching the information roll in. And if these people would have waited just 5 to 10 minutes, they would have seen that, yes, as a matter of fact, this was an assassination on Donald Trump's life. So, of course, this is what the left always tries to do. Downplay, obfuscate, change the narrative, right? Outright lie until, of course, it's so blaringly obvious they have to finally acknowledge it. But of course, when they do actually acknowledge it, it's up to Donald Trump now to calm the air, to bring down the rhetoric, because obviously it's his own fault for this happening.
Will be a political fallout, if you will, from this. Give me your best estimate of how this plays out now in that narrative.
Well, we've seen, Alex, just the cycle of political extremism at play, unfortunately, over the last, really decade of American politics. Polling, the Lincoln Democracy Institute did a great poll on political extremism in America last year. And one of the findings was that over 50% of Americans no longer see the political opposition as trustworthy opponents. They see them as untrustworthy enemies. And so on the scales of radicalization by what, after 9/11, the scales that were used, to gauge radicalism and extremism in the Middle East, by that criteria, almost 13% of Americans are actually political extremists who are radicalized. And it's very scary. And how have we gotten to this point when the demonization of the other side, where we simply, it's no longer politics. It's gotten, bigger than that. The calls for violence, the violence, rhetoric that, and then you look at what happens, and this heated rhetoric can only go so far before, unfortunately, it has led to violence on both sides of the aisle. And so I think it's just something that Democrats and Republicans have to be very cognizant about. What can we all do to take the temperature down?
Yeah. Do you expect there to be calls from within the Trump campaign to do that?
oh yes, obviously the Trump campaign needs to call for the lowering of the temperature because all his supporters are going to be very upset over this apparent assassination of his life. All right, I love how they basically say, yeah, over the last 10 years, there's been this development of distrust between two sides. Well, let's see, why in the world would that be? Is it possible because the one side, the left, is calling the other side horrible, terrible, Nazi racists, right? Is that possibly one of the reasons for the division in this country? Absolutely, right? One of the reasons for the distrust? Absolutely. And of course, the left, what are they doing? They're enforcing all of their rules by selectively prosecuting people, right? If you say something out of line on Facebook, etc., you're going to be investigated by the FBI. But if you're on the left and you're out there rioting and protesting and burning stuff down and assaulting people, that's perfectly fine. We'll even set up a fund to get you bailed out of jail. Yeah, no wonder there's this division between the parties now. No wonder people don't trust each other anymore. That's because the left has weaponized politics and expects the right to just sit there and take it. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.